What's up guys? Today we'll be learning how to do a jersey swap on Photoshop, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do it with Francisco Lindor from the Indians to the Astros. Let's dive right in. So our first set of action is really just to remove all of the logos and watermarks from the jersey, and that includes every little bit of MLB, Indians, all that jazz, just off of it. It's really easy to do, and what we're going to do right now is just make sure that we select the biggest one there. That's the word mark, and we're just gonna press fill, and we're gonna do content aware, and now we're just gonna clone stamp all of that rest of the mess and just kind of blend it in and just make sure it looks pretty even and just well blended. Let's make it look a little realistic. Feel free to take your time to do this. You know, when you take your time, it's gonna look better. But for the sake of this video, we're not gonna make sure it looks absolutely perfect. But yeah, just make sure that you continuously just make sure that it looks blended, and you should be good to go. Now the helmet is a special one because see that grime and dirt and stuff like that, all of that, we want to keep that on there. We want to make sure that looks really blended because that can be a little bit more tricky because there's so much detail on the helmet. So you want to make sure to really take your time on the helmet and make sure that it's actually blended well. The lighting can differ on the angle, so you're going to want to make sure to match that lighting and match the tip of the helmet. It doesn't have to look perfect because the editing that you'll do later on can really mask those imperfections, but just make sure that you get it to close enough to like where you feel that it looks good. Most jersey swaps you'll do don't really have a lot of watermarks on the undershirt. In this case there's one here, so just minimize the brush, make it a little smaller, and just take your time on that as well. And remember just to blend in everything, and don't forget to get the shoulder or the arm patches, as I've sometimes forgotten those, and I paid the price of fans looking at my swaps being like, hey, you forgot this. Just make sure to look around, observe, and yeah. So now we're going to be moving on to the coloring of the jersey, and now this part's my favorite part. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the select tool, and we're going to just auto select that, and now we're going to change the colors using the saturation sliders. Now you can select whatever you want because you don't have to worry about being too picky about what you select, because we're going to use the eraser tool and erase all of the parts that we don't want selected. So see that glove right there? The select tool selected that. We're not actually going to remove it because we're going to change the gloves to the same color. But as you can see, the eraser can remove that. Don't forget to change your opacity on the eraser just to 100, and just take your time, like I said, and just erase those little parts. So the white section on the eraser removes saturation or edits, and the black part of the eraser adds. So if you switch around between those two, you can actually figure out how to blend certain parts of the jerseys and certain parts of the player using the black and white tool with the eraser. And all that's at the bottom. It's no special need, like no special requirements, just the black and white colors. They differ from each other. So now we're just gonna go and touch up the jersey, make sure it looks good, get rid of the imperfections, and after that we'll go on to adding the watermarks. I don't want you guys to forget to do the socks and shoes on a player. So, now some swaps they won't need it, but other swaps they will. I had to do a Nolan Arenado swap, and I nearly forgot to do the shoes, which were purple, and I was changing him into an Astros jersey. So on your swaps, don't forget to do the socks and shoes. Make sure that they are colored in correctly. I've actually had a lot of fun designing the shoes because I've changed a player's shoes to gold and white, and they looked absolutely sick. So have some fun with it, guys. Be creative. Don't just do the same ordinary colors, you know, like put some pop onto it and make it look really unique. That's the fun part about Photoshop, is that you can get really creative. As we're, you know, touching up this last glove over here, you're gonna see that now, once I minimize this a little bit and show you the whole picture, now like he looks really good. And notice how I don't really care about like where the eraser is going to, because I can just skim it off later. So remember guys, utilize the eraser tool, and it's okay to be a little messy as long as you clean it up. So just remember to clean up your messes, and yeah, you should be good to go on coloring up everything that needs to go. Now his baseball helmet is already a color that we will probably just stay the same because it's a navy bluish kind of color, and that's what the Astros use, a navy blue color. So now we're going to go and add the word mark onto Francisco Lindor, and this is a really easy process. So what you're going to do is you're just going to select the word mark, and now you're just going to drag it in there. And this part, a lot of people can do it differently, but what we're going to do is, what I usually do is I just get the erase tool and put it into magic erase, and just take your time getting rid of those little spots. And then after we get rid of all those little spots we can take out with the magic eraser, we will just switch to the ordinary eraser and just remove them manually. So take your time and get that finished with, and we'll be moving on. Now remember to pay close attention when you're erasing, because the fuzziness on the eraser can really determine how realistic it looks. See that little skim I made right there, and how it kind of removed a slight opacity just from the distance of that eraser. So that's called fuzziness, and you can change that in the eraser settings up top. It's not on your screen, but if you look on your opacity settings on top and with your eraser size, it'll be right below it, and it's called hardness. I call it fuzziness because to me it just reminds me of that, but it's called hardness, and remember to use that. I prefer using less hardness on a clone stamp because it actually blends the clone stamp with surrounding areas, but on an eraser it can really differ like what you need it for. Just remember to pay close attention to that and don't accidentally remove part of the letters or part of the jersey, whatever you're erasing. Just pay close attention to that, and you can get really creative with how you do it. Like I can skim parts off just with the fuzziness slightly by putting my eraser slightly to the right of something. Like you can just be really creative with it. Just remember to pay attention to that. So now we're going to use the warp tool and kind of blend this in. And this picture is really easy to use because I picked two similar stances, similar enough on the word marks, just so like it would be really easy to do. But on other swaps, I've had really tough times trying to blend those in, and you can just see how realistic that looks. And now we're just going to take that patch on the side. We're not going to add the Houston Strong patch because that's an image from 2017. We want our swap to look up to date as possible. They don't really wear that patch anymore, so we're not going to put it on there. So this patch actually is a little difficult, because part of it's missing. And once I zoom in, I'll show you here that part of it is missing because Correa's sleeve is blocking it. A section on the top, as you can see on the top left of the patch. So we're just gonna take our time with it. Don't really need to do much because the angle that Correa is at is already kind of matching the sleeve as well, like the patch. So yeah, we're just gonna remove it, and you can also be a little creative with it by blending that patch in. See how it's missing on the top? You can just get an eraser tool and kind of take down the opacity and blend it in to look like the sleeve is guarding it or blocking its angle. So yeah, just remember to be creative and take your time with it. So that's a recurring thing I'm going to continue to use, because taking your time is incredibly important when it comes to anything really on Photoshop, or you could say in any part of life. So yeah. guys, so this is the easiest part of the swap, and what we're literally going to do is just copy and paste that helmet. So what we're really going to focus on is just blending this in, and that's really easy with most of them, unlike this one where I don't really feel like I did a great job on it because of the tar on the helmet. Don't let that be a deterrent to you. Don't let that keep you from using that image. There are ways around it, I promise you. I'm going to show you a cheap little way to do it. That's pretty easy. So first we're just going to warp this in, make sure that it looks at a right angle. Not too hard to do. I actually encourage you guys to go use separate images for word marks, and yeah, because if you find an image that has a perfect angle with the helmet, use it, and you can use a separate image for the word mark on the jersey. So see how that is a good angle. We're just gonna use we're gonna double click the layer, and we're gonna go edit the detail on that logo, and it's not hard to do. But I don't really prefer using this way. There are other ways to do it. You can put overlays over it, all sorts of little creative ways to do it. I don't really prefer using this. I never really do, but it's easy to use, and you can get away with it sometimes, like this one. So now the swap is nearly complete, looking good. Francisco looks good in that orange. So now let's focus on editing it slightly. The number is really important on a jersey. Don't forget that. I'm not going to spend the time and track down different Astros numbers. So we're just going to put a 1 on here and pretend that that's his number for this YouTube video. So the number, super easy to do, and we're just going to blend it in, remove everything else just like we did from the helmet. Piece of cake, guys. Remember just to use the warp tool on that. Don't just leave it like that. Make sure that the ripples on the jersey match where the number is. We could leave it like that and it could look good, but I'm just going to take my time and make sure that I can, make it look a little bit better. So. Alright, so one last thing I nearly forgot to explain to you guys is the piping. Now this is daunting to some people, but it's really easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another layer, and we're going to use the brush tool and just use a nice little brush over it, and you're going to be like, that looks really bad. But we're going to blend it in, I promise you. We're going to make it look really good. I recommend using a size 7 on it because I feel like it's a perfect size to do it, but you can use it smaller or bigger, whatever you want to do, man. Just go for it. So we're just gonna kind of follow the lines that are already there on the jersey. You can see them just a little bit. When they're not there, just use just some common knowledge and just kind of find out a path for it, and make sure it looks good. Remember not to leave any blank spaces. Blend it in a little bit, make sure it looks good. Use the right coloring. You can use the color detector tool, and it's really easy to use. But I always like to just go select a color myself from the color menu and just kind of pick and choose what I like. Now it does look a little bit bad, so what we're gonna do is, and that's okay that it looks a little bit bad, but we're gonna add some detail to that. It actually does really help, I promise you. And see how it kind of adds some shading to it and detail. And we can actually, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take down the opacity just slightly, and we're gonna duplicate the layer so it makes it a little thicker, but it also doubles the detail. And I don't know why it works so well to me, but it just does, man. I love it. So once we duplicated it, we're gonna merge it together, and it looks perfect. And now we're nearly set. So let's edit the photo. I always like to take up the offset just a little bit, and it I don't know, man, it just makes the lighting look super good. And you can always also take down the saturation, the vibrance a little bit. In this case, I don't really like it, so we're just gonna keep the vibrance just barely underneath. I don't really like taking it down too much because I feel like it takes away the life of the photo. So yeah, guys, just get creative with how you edit it. So yeah. last but not least, we add the watermark and we're good to go, guys. So this, another step that I do sometimes on rare occasions, is add a little overlay to the swap, and just like, look how good that looks. I just love it. So guys, take care. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that I helped you out just a little bit. Leave a like on the video, and show me your swaps, guys. DM me Astros Network, and I'd love to see your swaps. And take care, guys.